welcome to the Purple Warriors podcast. I'm your host, Ali Sugars, and thank you for joining us. This podcast is about raising awareness for domestic and family abuse by allowing survivors to share their own journeys to recovery. You will find practical yet powerful information and tools that you can implement immediately in your own recovery journey, as well as information on how you can help someone that you think may be in a toxic relationship. Hosts and guests will often discuss sensitive topics in detail, and while this is done with the utmost respect and dignity, it may cause triggers for some listeners. Hello everyone, and welcome to this very, very special episode of the Purple Warriors podcast. Now, as a transformation myself, who works with ladies to help them rediscover their voice and their confidence and their strength, today's episode, I thought that I would talk about these three aspects of life in particular. Now, beginning with strength, mental strength. Then we're going to talk about how to gain or rediscover confidence. And finally, how to find your voice. When we understand the importance and the true meanings of these three words and how we can make them work for us, our lives, our mindset, and our futures all start to change for the better. Now, as I said, I work as a women's transformation coach, and it's become a huge passion of mine to help so many lovely ladies go from being totally unsure of themselves to literally blossoming like a flower in front of my eyes as we work together. It is such a privilege. And if you'll indulge me today, I'd love to tell you why it means so much to me and how I started in this work. Now, I know I've spoken and shared my story in length before on this podcast, and of course you can go back to previous episodes and find out more about the full version of this story, but I just want to condense it a bit for you here. So, in 2017, I went through quite a significant workplace bullying and sexual harassment experience. Now, this wasn't necessarily, when I say experience, it wasn't something that happened overnight. It was building up over probably about 2.5 years, to the point where I ended up getting diagnosed with acute anxiety. I had a major mental breakdown, and I had to unfortunately resign from that job for several reasons. And you know, it was a horrible time in my life, but there was a time when I was lying on the couch and I was unable to move, but I just got to thinking, it was like, surely I cannot allow myself to keep going like this. And I started to think back over my life and what I'd gone through previously. And of course, yes, I went back to the fact that I had survived 2 abusive marriages. I went even back further, and a returning memory that came to me was that I had actually been sexually abused as a 16-year-old child by my first boyfriend. Now, this was kind of put together at this moment. But the powerful thing that I realised was, hang on a minute, I have survived all of this so far, that there is no doubt in my mind that I can survive this as well. And this was the moment when it really became quite clear to me that I was going to survive it, I was going to get up, I was going to be bigger and better than ever. But more importantly, I was going to be able to share my story, and I was going to be able to help other women who have gone through similar circumstances. And that is why I do what I do today. I work as a women's transformation coach. So in this episode, what I'd love to do is talk to you briefly about those 3 things: voice, confidence, and strength. Now, we're going to start with strength. And as I said, we're going to talk about mental and emotional strength. So first of all, I'd like to say that each and every single beautiful woman that I work with, they come to me at the beginning and they tell me that they feel weak. They feel flat, uninspired, listless, depressed and anxious even. Then they share with me the life experiences and circumstances that they have endured. And I tell you, honestly, some of the things that I hear that these ladies have survived through tells me that they are so much stronger than they give themselves credit for. I mean, there's things like marriage breakups, grief, financial hardship, bullying, abuse, loss. I mean, obviously I could go on and on and on. But to survive all of these things takes an incredible amount of strength. So firstly, if you're listening to this and if this is you, please give yourself credit for coming this far. And I really want to say to you from the bottom of my heart, well done. So let's talk about some ways that you can recognize and maintain mental and emotional strength in your life. The first thing is positive self-talk. And I know we all hear it so much. I mean, it's almost become like a mantra, hasn't it? But I am telling you, it works. And when I say use positive self-talk, I don't mean just repeat what people tell you to say, repeat this sentence and it's all going to be better. What I'm talking about is going deeper. Listen to the thoughts that you are saying to yourself. And if they're negative, which if you're in this mind space, they're likely to be more often than not, create a positive affirmation out of it. Write it down. Stick it on the fridge or somewhere where you'll read it frequently throughout the day and say it out loud to yourself. It's powerful stuff. So one thing that I always get my clients to do is go to the mirror each and every morning and tell themselves, I love you, your name. So I want you to try this. Go to the mirror each and every morning and say to yourself, I love you, Ali. I love you, Diane. I love you, Samantha. Now, this might sound easy, but I can tell you from experience that when you are struggling with your own self-worth, it can be a really challenging thing to say at the very least. But honestly, give it a go, or is it something that you do already? I mean, how do you find it? When I started doing this, the first day I did it, I went to the mirror. It was in the middle of the day. I said, I love you, Ali, to myself. And I bawled my eyes out and I was a basket case curled up on the couch for the rest of the afternoon. I struggled with it, but I'm telling you, the more you practice it, the better that you will feel. So the next thing is self-care. And of course, yes, this is another mantra of sorts that we hear a lot about, but it is so important. Every single person needs to practice self-care. We need to carve out some time in the day for ourselves, just for ourselves. And I know, I hear people saying all the time that I don't have time. And I hear you. Like, trust me, people say, I'm a single parent. I run my own business. I've got a full-time job. I'm running a house by myself. I totally get it. I have done all of those things. But I can absolutely 100% guarantee that you can find at least 30 minutes in your day to practice self-care, whatever that might be for you, whatever it might mean, but just something for you. Now, secondly, let's talk about confidence. Practice gratitude each and every day before you get out of bed in the morning. Before your feet hit the ground, think of at least 5 things that you're grateful for in the day ahead. This is something that I practice on a daily basis, and I actually will not allow myself to get out of bed until I have thought about these things that I'm grateful for. And what this does is if you might have, say for instance, a challenging day ahead, you've got some things that you might not be looking forward to, it's going to help you deal with it on a much higher positive frequency than if you just got up and, say, got on with it as best you could, right? Now, let's take, for example, if you work in an office and you have a meeting where you have to go and make a presentation that day. Can you imagine the difference if you lay there in bed in the morning and instead of going, oh God, I really don't want to get up this morning, I don't want to have to do this presentation, it's going to be crap, as opposed to, lying there and thinking, oh my goodness, I'm so grateful that I get the opportunity to go and speak to these people in this meeting today. Can you imagine the difference of you walking into that meeting with those two different mindsets? People are going to notice. You're going to feel it, but people are going to notice the difference. And it kind of all depends on how you set yourself up for the start of the day as to how it goes. So this is why I practice gratitude first thing every morning. Now, honestly, as I record this podcast, there are some things that I have to do today that I'm not looking forward to. But I lay in bed this morning and I practice gratitude that I have to do these things. Practice gratitude that I've got the opportunity to do these things that a lot of people actually don't have the opportunity to do. So the other thing that you can do actually is you can practice gratitude at night before you go to sleep. So be grateful for the things that have happened in the day just gone. So be thankful for that meeting. Be grateful for the mistakes which led to learning opportunities that you had throughout the day. I mean, what a way to bookend the day, practicing gratitude both at the beginning of the day and the end of the day. And you can even practice an extension of this, which is what I do, visualization. Obviously, you can do this any time of the day, but I personally enjoy doing it at the same time in the morning as I practice my gratitude exercise. I picture the person that I want to be. So I would encourage you to picture the person that you want to be, the future you. Imagine what you're doing, who you're with, how you feel when you accomplish those dreams and goals. But don't just picture it from the outside looking in. Put yourself into your own body and picture it as if you're looking from the inside out to the world you will see when you're there. Now, I have a dream of being a motivational speaker. And so when I picture this, I don't necessarily picture it from someone in the audience looking at me on stage speaking. I love and I get such an incredible feeling when I picture myself on the stage looking out to the audience. So I'm in my own body. So that's what I mean by picture it from the inside out. It is powerful. And can I tell you that not necessarily public speaking, but I have been using visualization particularly over the last 6 months and let's say even a year. And now these things are very much coming into fruition for me, which is proving to me that this really, really does work. And this has been happening over the last 6 months. So trust me, it works. Also, I would encourage you to question your inner critic. Now, I've spoken about this before on the show. Our little itty bitty shitty committee, you know, that voice in our head that keeps telling us that we're no good. And just, it's a little bitch, I tell you, it keeps going. Now, we talked a minute ago about turning our negative thought patterns into affirmations. Now, of course, this absolutely helps with our confidence as well. But when we really, really get into a subconscious pattern of recognizing and listening to our inner voice, when that little itty bitty shitty committee voice starts to talk, it can actually become a habit to challenge yourself not to believe it. And you can take what that committee is saying to you and you can turn it around, of course, into a positive affirmation. Now, you know, I've done this and I get my clients to do this as well. And what I find is, you know, when they write things down, they actively really start, you know, after they've been doing it for say 24 hours, maybe even 48 hours, they start to put the pen away and stop necessarily recording it, writing it down. But they subconsciously begin to listen to what they're saying and then talk themselves around into a positive affirmation. It's actually incredible the transformation I see in them, and it happens in literally overnight sometimes. So when your itty bitty shitty committee is really giving you a hard time, do this. Go and get a piece of paper and write down 100 things that you love about yourself. Now, recently I got a beautiful client to do this, and it was really awesome. When I first asked her to do it, she was like, no, I don't think so. That's going to be too hard. But I encouraged her, and she did. She started to do it. At the beginning, some things that she was writing down were quite surface. But as she went on, she got deeper and deeper and deeper into the things that she really did love and appreciate about herself. And what do you think that did for her confidence? Oh my goodness, it absolutely soared. And I can tell you, when you do this, your confidence is going to skyrocket as well. And 100 things might seem impossible, but I can tell you that it's not. I encourage you to go start writing. So lastly, I would encourage yourself to challenge yourself each and every day. Push yourself that little bit further. And by just practicing that, the steps that we've spoken about so far today can actually be a challenge for a lot of people to start off with. And I know, I tell you, I totally get it. I mean, I've been there, and it is a challenge. But you'll actually learn to love that challenge of pushing yourself that little bit further each day. And look, it's not easy to begin with. Of course it's not. But I can tell you that I have literally seen people in a place where they believed that everything was absolutely hopeless, to now where they are literally skipping out of bed in the morning, going to the mirror and doing their mirror work. And not only they're doing it just in the morning, but they're also throughout the day as they need to, they're also going to the mirror then, and they're repeating their mirror affirmations to themselves. And it's incredible. So growing our confidence is a gift to ourselves, and it really helps make us so much happier. And it's not like being big-headed or an ego trip or anything like that. I mean, it's necessary to have confidence, to be able to function. So go ahead, trust me. Even if you don't think you're ready, begin practicing these steps today. Now, can I tell you, it is a challenge for me still. You may not believe it, but it's a challenge for me to put myself out there publicly and do things such as these podcasts and do interviews with other beautiful people, do Facebook Lives. It's a challenge. But for me, this is something that I never thought I would do. Which brings me to the last topic I want to talk about, and hands down my favourite one: finding or rediscovering your voice. Now, this can actually mean several things. So firstly, it means being able to express yourself and share your opinions freely when you need to. Secondly, feeling confident enough to speak up for yourself and others when you need to. And thirdly, sharing your journey with other people. Now, I'm going to expand on these a little bit as we go on. So let's talk about how we rediscover our voice. Be unapologetically who you are. So when you've followed the steps that we've spoken about so far in gaining confidence and strength, you will find yourself able to do this more and more. You will really, really start to recognize what your own values are and what is really important to you. Now, as you already know, after my second marriage, this was a point where I really came to discover who Ali was as a person and learn what my values were. And I really did start to step into myself and be unapologetically who I am. And it is a powerful feeling, let me tell you. Also, set your boundaries. It might mean not giving too much of ourselves to other people. And I know so many of us are givers out there, but we can get to a place where we actually do it at the expense of ourselves and our own self-care. But putting boundaries in place can mean determining how much time we're willing to be able to help those other people. In your friendship circle, in your family, whoever it might be. Don't be afraid to set these boundaries when communicating with others. I work with a lot of ladies who've been divorced and a lot who like me, have survived abusive relationships. Now, in these scenarios, of course, boundaries might be you need to set them with the ex-partner or even with their families or friends. It's paramount that you do set these boundaries in these occasions. Now, sometimes this might mean not communicating for a period of time or only communicating via certain means such as text message or email or even through a third party. But when you learn to stand in that strength we spoke about, all this becomes easier and easier. Clear communication. It is all about the body language, I tell you. The way you sound, your stance, your eye contact, your facial expressions, and your listening skills. And, going back to that divorce scenario again, it's really easy to get caught up in all the emotions that this can bring out in us. I mean, really, isn't it? It's a very emotional and often a bloody traumatic experience. But what I've learned is that when we work on our own body language, it's amazing how the other person reacts to us. What might often start off as, well, let's face it, an argument or possibly, a full-on discussion, it can be turned into quite a civil discussion by you working on your own body language and them reacting to you. When we listen to what's being said by these people, there's often so much more behind the meaning of the words that are being said. And if, say, for instance, someone, we've all had this happen, a person snaps at you when you're not expecting it, it's probably not directed at you at all, but something that they're dealing with in their own personal life. And lastly, sharing your story. Now, when I say this, I don't mean that you have to get out there in the public and shout it from the rooftops or get on a Facebook Live or record a podcast and tell the world. This is actually something that I personally choose to do. And you may one day get to this point too, where you want and you need to take your own story public in order to help other people. But you might not get to that point. It might be a while away for you yet. And, as I've said previously, we need to care for ourselves first before we can care for others. And it's very, very relevant here too. What I mean is talk to someone about what you are experiencing, whether it's a friend, a relative, or if it's something that you don't feel that you can talk to these people who are close to you about, join a support group or speak to a professional. I mean, what's the old saying? A problem shared is a problem halved. And it often takes someone looking from the outside of the situation in to give you a totally different perspective that you may not be able to see yourself because you're just surrounded by all the shit. And here, I would love to share with you a couple of ways that you can get in contact with me so I can support you and help you. Now, firstly, you can go to my Facebook page, which is The Motivation Mama. And secondly, you can join my Facebook group called Women Rising Above, which is all about motivating, encouraging and supporting women who are and have risen above life's situations, whatever they might be. And thirdly, I would love to offer you the opportunity to work with me on a one-on-one basis. Now, here I'm going to offer you a free 30-minute clarity call with me so that we can discuss your situation and get you on the path to overcoming the obstacles in your life and moving forward to get you rediscovering your voice, your confidence and your strength in such a powerful way. So I look forward to hearing from you in the very near future. Now, before I finish today's episode, I want to make an announcement about the Purple Warriors podcast. We have been running for over 14 months now, and I've been so privileged to have so many incredible and very knowledgeable guests on the podcast. But I've been feeling lately that it's time to put my baby to rest for a bit. Not for good, but just for now. Personally, I've got a couple of really exciting projects in the works at the moment that I can't wait to share with you, but you're not going to hear about them just yet. You'll hear about them shortly. So for now, I would love to say a huge, heartfelt thank you to each and every one of you who has contributed so significantly to this passion project of mine. Whether you've been a guest or a regular listener, your support has meant a lot, and thank you for helping me get the word out to speak up and out against abuse. Every single episode will remain live so that you'll be able to revisit them and share with others for great reference tools, so you'll be able to share them to the world to help get the word out there further. So for now, I say again a heartfelt thank you and goodbye from the Purple Warriors podcast. But I, Ali Sugars, I will see you again real soon. Happy day, beautiful.